random move every second, and smaller than the probability of a tornado passing through a junkyard containing the bits and pieces of an airplane and leaving a Boeing 747 in its wake, fully assembled and ready to fly. Finally, they flourish the conclusion that the occurrence of such a chance events since life first arose would be nothing short of miraculous, and that biogenesis could be brought about only by the intervention of God. But let's not be dazzled by all these mathematical fireworks. By way of logical analogy, consider the beginnings of life for any given human individual. Start with the assumption that each of us begins life as a result of random chemical interactions between the 3 billion or so base pairs that make up our 20,000 or so genes, and in the components of our junk DNA, about 97% of the total. Factor in also the components of mitochondrial DNA. Keep in mind further that a typical adult individual's body is made up of about 100 trillion cells, and that one's brain alone contains approximately 100 billion neurons, each of which has about 7,000 synaptic connections with other neurons, and that the brain of even of a 3-year-old child has about 1,000 trillion synapses. Now let's ask a good mathematician to calculate the a priori probability of all the foregoing ingredients being randomly arranged so as to produce a healthy newborn child. My guess is that any mathematician crazy enough to go along with the assumption that all these factors are independent would find the probability to be so mind-bogglingly small that a 9-month gestation period would fall astronomically short of the time allegedly required to get all the arrangements right. The probability of any given individual's makeup being what it is would be nothing short of a miracle. Another procreative act of the Holy Ghost, perhaps. I doubt whether even the most credulous creationist would accept the reasoning of this parallel argument. The fact is that no one who knows the slightest bit of embryological theory would ever accept the original supposition that human life results from merely random chemical reactions. Likewise, anyone who knows the slightest bit of evolutionary theory no one who knows the slightest bit of evolutionary theory would ever accept the supposition that biogenesis is to be attributed solely to mere chance. Darwin and his successors have never said anything like that. Chance may well have played a role, but so did the laws of physics and chemistry. The probabilistic argument against naturalistic explanations of biogenesis is a fraud. We have good scientific reasons to suppose that the origins and makeup of a human embryo do not result merely from random throws of our prenatal DNA dice. Equally, we have good scientific reasons to suppose that the origins and makeup of the first living organism did not result merely from random throws of the prebiotic molecular dice. Arguably, if chance is involved in either case, it's only in that sense of the word in which the chance outcome of a particular game of roulette is a function not of the breakdown of the laws of Newtonian physics, but of our usual ignorance of the precise circumstances, the initial conditions to which they apply. But how did the initial conditions and laws of the physical universe happen to be such as to produce a planet like ours that is life-friendly? One answer, and this is the third argument, goes like this. A priori, we'd have to judge that the probability of them being what they happen to be is infinitesimally low, so low that the best explanation for them being that way is to suppose that God set them up that way so as to execute his plan for the universe. This is the essence of the third probabilistic argument for the existence of a supernatural being, an argument that's sometimes referred to as the argument from fine-tuning. This argument can be dressed up in terms of an awesome array of evidence from contemporary physics and cosmology. The details needn't concern us. It suffices to summarize thus. Had there been complete symmetry between matter and antimatter in the early moments after the Big Bang, they would have annihilated each other, and the universe would have consisted of nothing but pure radiation, so that galaxies, stars, planets, and people would never have existed. Had the total mass and energy in the universe, or the strength of the gravitational constant, varied by the minutest fraction, its rate of expansion wouldn't have allowed galaxies, stars, and planets to exist today. If any faster, they wouldn't have been able to form. If any slower, the whole universe would already have collapsed. We can envisage a whole array of universes, each differing from all the others in the precise values of their physical constants. So the probability that any particular one of them would turn out to be our universe is extremely low. That our universe happens to exist is a fact that balances on what Collins calls a knife edge of improbability. The best explanation for our specific universe being actualized is that it was selected from that vast ensemble by some being not in the universe, but somehow outside it, a supernatural being such as God. It was God, that is, who selected a universe whose parameters were so finely tuned that it would eventually produce life and the likes of us. And, as the anthropic principle trivially reminds us, if our universe hadn't been selected, we wouldn't be here to talk about it. The flaws in this argument should be evident. Again, by way of logical analogy, imagine a worldwide lottery in which every member of the world's current population of just over 6.6 billion is a player who puts in a dollar apiece. Every person is assigned a ball with their own individual number inscribed on it. The balls are placed in a giant lotto machine, and after numerous revelations, just one ball drops out. Clearly, the number of different physical parameters for each of the balls, its precise position and momentum, for instance, at the start of the process is enormously large. And the probability of my ball being the winning one is incredibly low. Yet someone's going to win. Suppose it's me, and I win $6.6 billion. Does the improbability of my winning make it correspondingly probable that the whole thing was fixed? In